This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to the DCAU Review, hosted by Cal and Liam, streaming at DCAUreview.com and on your favorite podcast app.
The original Justice League has become a memory.
I am resigning from the Justice League.
What's going to happen to the League now?
We rebuild. From the ashes of that great conflict, a new team has arisen. A much, much bigger team.
Each of you brings something different to the table.
Old friends, new heroes. And as usual, plenty of bad guys jumping up to get beat down.
Calm down, and I'll let you go. How about you kiss my ass?
Watch out, evildoers. There's nowhere to run. Because this year, they're all around you. The League is unlimited. An all-new original series, starring every superhero worth cheering for. And then some. Justice League Unlimited.
Where am I exactly?
Among friends.
There's strength in numbers.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 157 of the DCAU Review. I am Liam, and as he always is, Cal is joining me once again this week. And Cal, we are smack dab in the middle of our month of magic.
That's right. It's Magic May, if you will. It's the month of magic. We are reviewing episodes specifically themed around characters that wield their magical, mystical powers here this month throughout the DCAU. So we were led into this month by the Batman the Animated Series episode Zatanna. We have also covered The Hand of Fate, which kicked us off last week with the month of magic, sort of the introduction to a pseudo introduction to the Dr. Fate character as we were sort of quizzically discussing, which of course, if you missed that episode, make sure you go back and check it out in the archives at DCAUreview.com. But today, Liam, we have, I think this is going to be a milestone episode for two reasons. The first, as we teased last week, is this is oftentimes an episode referenced by us that I have quite the affinity, or at least I believed I had quite the affinity for and love for, while you did not quite share that same love and appreciation for this episode. So we kind of anticipated this being one of the rare times where we may in fact have a large disparity between our scores. So that's the first one. The second one is I can almost say beyond certainty that today will mark the Paul Diniest of Paul Dini episodes that we will ever cover.
That's right. As mentioned, we are this week reviewing This Little Piggy, the Justice League Unlimited episode, and lots of magical characters on display here. Wonder Woman herself as the returning Zatanna, and kind of one of the big bads of the whole Wonder Woman rogues gallery in Circe, making her one and only DCAU appearance.
Yes, she does. When we will kind of roll into the plot here in just a moment, discuss how they kind of go about introducing her. But before we do, I'm sure as we do each and every week for the listeners' benefit and for a quick refresher for us, just because we get some good entertainment value out of it as well. I'm sure that you have the Internet Movie Database. That's right. We're not sponsored by imdb.com anyway. This is a free plug for them every single week. We would be, though. I think we would take a sponsorship for IMDb.
Yeah, I think Amazon owns them, so any of that Bezos money wants to come our way.
We'll take it. We digress here. This episode, as you're about to read, Liam, the official IMDb synopsis of, originally debuted on the Cartoon Network back on August the 28th, 2004, meaning that we just are coming up on the 17-year anniversary of this very episode.
That's right. And this synopsis is for the episode This Little Piggy, which was written by Paul Dini, directed by Dan Reba, with music by the Dynamic Music Partners and animation by Dong Yang. And that synopsis reads as such. When Circe changes Wonder Woman into a pig, Batman and Zatanna must find her and change her back.
Short, sweet, to the point, no gristle, no extra like wordiness. I think that may be the best synopsis I've seen in quite a while from the folks over at IMDb.
Yeah, no, I no notes. It's a pretty solid one.
That's a good, like, I think that's like a solid B plus, I think. Like,
agreed.
Didn't go over the top, but you know, it didn't go out of their way to make it memorable, but it's short, sweet, to the point.
Didn't answer the extra credit essay questions at the bottom of the test, but did good work on the main body. Anyway, Cal, we can jump into our plot here, which might be where we hear the disagreement alarm for the first time. We'll see. So, as mentioned in our synopsis, Wonder Woman and Batman are on a stakeout at the start of the episode. They run afoul of a thief outside, or actually in a back alley behind the Iceberg Lounge. So we established there in Gotham City. Mm-hmm. And wouldn't you know it, the thief turns out to be the aforementioned Circe, one of kind of the true arch enemies of the Wonder Woman character in the comics. So they actually take, I guess, a little bit more of the traditional motifs of this character in the Greek mythology, and that is that she turns men and, in fact, women in this episode into animals.
Yeah, there's a heavy reliance on some of the Greek mythology as we get into it here. Let's not bury the lead here. I think the fans, the listeners here are going to be quite upset if we don't at least address the giant. It's not an elephant. I guess it would be a pig in the room, but that would be that we have a very serious conversation at the beginning of the episode about Wonder Bat. And Wonder Woman is clearly flirting with Batman on this stakeout as they were given a tip that Intergang was going to be breaking into this natural history museum, and they're going to be stealing the Rosetta Stone. And Batman and Wonder Woman are there on stakeout, and she sort of pries and asks him if he ever sort of longs to be, quote, down there, as they had observed several couples leaving the Iceberg Lounge. And Batman very clearly and plainly states his case as to why romances, A, don't work in the Justice League, and B, why they themselves wouldn't work.
Don't you ever wish you were down there?
I'm down there all I need to be.
Yes, but it's just a job to you. I'm talking about going down there and having some fun. Maybe with someone special. No dating for the Batman. It might cut into your brooding time.
1. Dating within the team always leads to disaster. 2. You're a princess from a society of immortal warriors. I'm a rich kid with issues. Lots of issues. And 3. If my enemies knew I had someone special, they wouldn't rest until they'd gotten to me through her.
Next.
There.
Saved by the bell.
He gives the old standard Batman line of, you know, if the villains found out, you know, that I was involved with somebody, they would try to get to me by getting to her. And Wonder Woman very emphatically crushes a gargoyle's head to remind Batman that she is just not any girl. But yes, they discover as they listen to the alarm go off that in fact there is someone breaking in. It is not Intergang. It is Circe. She and Batman and Wonder Woman have a quick interaction where I thought it was actually very effective the way that they sort of introduce her. As you mentioned, this is the first introduction of this character to the entire DCAU, but it's very clear that she's had prior run-ins, not only with Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is aware of who she is, but with Wonder Woman's mother. And Wonder Woman sort of uses a line to sort of tell Batman, instead of just giving the old exposition where she's sort of, you know, reciting to the villain who she is, she sort of kindly explains to Batman who Circe is, and Batman responds saying he knows, he's well aware of who she is. But through this battle, and as she also sort of tells Batman that she turns her enemies into animals. Circe also has a line where she says that she was banished to the underworld. She was paroled on the promise that she wouldn't then bother Wonder Woman's mother anymore. No more messing with Hippolyta, but mentions that there was nothing said about messing with Diana. So she takes it upon herself at that point to transform Diana into a pig, making a comment to Batman that he would no longer want to have anything to do with her or something, or that to Wonder Woman that Batman wouldn't want anything to do with her at that point or something like that. And wouldn't you know it, she's a little pig wearing silver bracelets.
Which is funny because he's actually significantly more affectionate towards her once she's the pig.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the rest of the episode. There's a lot of wacky hijinks as he takes the Wonder Pig, to see Zatanna. She's unable to transform her back into Wonder Woman. I think for no good reason, Batman tries to keep this a secret.
Yeah, that was the only plot point that I kind of get it. He's attempting to protect and not have Diana be the laughing stock of the whole league, I guess.
No, that's dumb.
Okay, but bear with me here. Can't you imagine? Can you imagine if some of these guys got wind of Wonder Woman being turned into a pig? The Flash would never let her live that down. Come on.
Well, but the Flash will make jokes either way, right? I don't know. Also, as we established, she can crush gargoyles with her bare hands. So if anyone laughs at her, I think she can kind of handle it herself, Okay.
All right. So we're already picking apart the plot here that you've brushed over already. The fact that we have the returning Zatanna, who we last saw 2 weeks ago, but many years ago, actually, in continuity here, probably. And Zatanna apparently has learned Bruce's secret at some point. There is a reference later in the episode to Bruce asks Zatanna if he remembers or if she remembers the time that the Penguin was trying to kidnap some singer, and that's definitely not an adventure that we were aware of. The only interaction we had prior to this scene was the Zatanna episode that we reviewed 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly there was something that happened in between here that was pseudo referenced there, where Bruce must have finally revealed his secret identity to her, because she calls him Bruce right off the bat. We also learn that Zatanna is no longer just doing sleight of hand and illusions, but she's also sort of dabbling in this mystical realm of the dark arts, per se.
Yeah, she's a lot more the traditional classic comic book version of Zatanna here, with the her magic spells are all her words spoken backwards, and they establish that she has a lot more mystical ability. She does mention that she's still, for the most part, her stage act is mostly still practical tricks and illusions, but that she works in a little bit of the sorcery for that old razzle dazzle, if you will. So yeah, we don't know if she always had that ability and just wasn't using it. Could have used that ability to shrink a man probably when Batman and her were being thrown out of a plane.
Yep.
But no, it's just things change, and obviously when they were doing that episode of Batman, I don't think they ever could have imagined that things would get quite so outlandish and over the top and full comic booky as they got later on in these subsequent series that came out. So I'm okay with that. Whether she always was sort of dabbling in it and was keeping a lid on it, or if that's a chapter in her life that we didn't get to see, where sometime after the events of that episode, she began to learn that. But either way, yeah, like we said, she's definitely much more the traditional comics Zatanna here, and she's kind of Batman's tour guide through the magical realm. At first, they go to this magic fence. Who trades in these elements they need for a spell, who tries to rip them off, and then after the Wonder Pig escapes, because for the plot to move forward, Batman had to not be paying attention.
Right.
Batman. And that's the other thing where Batman's like, I need to keep this a secret, but also I call in the Bowana Beast and Crimson Avenger, like, and the Elongated Man. Like, these guys aren't exactly, if you're worried about it getting out, maybe don't call, like, Elongated Man in pretty much every appearance where he has dialogue is known to be quite a chatterbox. So I question the wisdom of that theme. But anyway, we can get more into that in a little bit. But so Wonder Pig escapes. A few more Leaguers get called in to sort of search the town for her. And meanwhile, Batman and Zatanna go to, I guess, the River Styx, and not only meet the woman that holds the scales of justice, but also they meet with the Grim Reaper, and in fact, the real Medusa, not the Marvel Comics character, the literal Greek goddess with the snakes for hair.
Yeah, we said it at the top. We were talking here. They had some fun with some of that old Greek mythology, and they really went all out with it. Medusa is a hilarious character written by Paul Dini. Like, if you just want a snapshot of the comedy of this, and a pig with bracelets isn't enough for you, and some of the other hijinks and slapstick that happens later on in the episode, the entire conversation between Batman and Wonder Woman and Medusa, it's as if they went to a actual real prison and spoke to because Medusa, you see, was Circe's cellmate in Hades. Yep. So she had all the scoops on where she might be. And her parting line about demanding Circe return her curling iron, I thought, it's just like, what? This is so goofy. This is so goofy.
Medusa, you have a chance to earn leniency if you help our visitors. You were Circe's cellmate, weren't you?
Sea Girl and me did some time together back in the pit of eternal torment. That's where they hang you by your ankles, and weasels come each night to eat your fingers. They grow back the next day, but trust me, it gets old real quick.
Did she ever mention Hippolyta?
Are you kidding? Hippolyta! All the time, Hippolyta. When I get my hands on her, yada, yada, yada.
That much we know. We're wasting our time.
Wait. There was one other thing. Circe was always saying she wanted a headline at the amphitheater. The amphitheater? On Mykonos, duh. Seems Circe was wicked jealous of her cousins, the Sirens, and swore she'd someday get her turn on the bandstand. Sophocles gonna start there, Aristophanes, all the big names. You know those statues at the entrance? Mine.
Thank you, Medusa. And know that you've earned 300 years off your sentence.
Freedom in 4010. Ring-a-ding-ding.
But so they continue after that. Yes, after they've met with Medusa, who gives them the tip. By the way, the little plot point that we neglected to mention was that Circe the reason why they kind of traversed the different magic realms was because they had no way to locate where Circe was, because she hid herself. So Medusa was the only one that was able to give them sort of the scuttlebutt as to where she might be. A snitch, Batman calls her, I believe. And she confesses that Circe had long been jealous of her cousins, the Sirens, which, again, if you know your Greek mythology, are the goddesses that stand on the rocks and sing songs that basically caused ships to crash by their songs. So they were singing gods, and they happened to be Circe's cousins, and Circe decided that she was tired of them getting all of the glamour and the praise for their voices, and she felt like she had her own voice talent to share with the world. And we actually get the first of two musical numbers with Circe singing Lulu's Back in Town, as we later find out inside the location specifically was like someplace, a Greek amphitheater, basically, that Medusa had turned some men into statues and outside of it. So she was kind of able to give the 411 where they would be located. So, and that's when Batman and Zatanna catch up with her mid performance, and more slapstick happens, followed by, which for better or worse is probably the most memorable moment in Justice League Unlimited history. At least in my opinion.
And you're, of course, talking about when the Wonder Pig blocks the shotgun blast with her bracelet.
Come on, man. Yeah, simultaneously while that's happening, Buona Beast finds Wonder Pig, as he's starting to refer to her, and she happens to, wouldn't you know it, run right into a Gotham slaughterhouse with hundreds of other pigs, so he can't find her. And one of the evil slaughterers finds her running around in the slaughterhouse and gets his shotgun after she's escaped from him, and fires it. And Wonder Pig does what Wonder Pig does. She puts her bracelets up, cross arms, blocks the bullet, runs away, but unfortunately is finally caught. And that's when they happen to slip in the line from Babe, from Babe, or is it Charlotte's Web with "That'll Do, Pig"?
I believe it's Babe.
Okay, Babe Pig in the City. Yeah. That'll do, Pig. That'll do. Yes, but actually what I was referring to, of course, is the fact that Circe, after Batman has sort of observed that magic always has a cost, he approaches Circe with a trade, asking her what she would request in order to release Wonder Woman from this spell. And she tells him that it's something that he once given up, he can never, ever give back.
I want something from you that's very precious. Something you've worked very hard to conceal. Something when gone, you can never regain. Something so shattering.
Am I blue? Am I blue? Ain't these tears in my eyes telling you? Am I blue? You'd be too if each plan that you had done fell through. There was a time I was your only one, but now I'm the sad and lonely one.
Beautiful. And you'll keep your part of the bargain? A deal's a deal. He can stop now. Not on your life.
Yep, that's right. So Batman sings a song. He sings a song. The song's called "Am I Blue?" And we'll talk more specifically about performances of these musical numbers when we get into our musical category a little bit later. But yes, that is the grand finale. There's no punching their way out of anything. It's Batman. Does probably the most emotionally vulnerable thing we've ever seen him do. For Wonder Woman, to guarantee her safe return, and he just sings a song in public in front of everyone, and yeah, that's our ending. Circe lives up to her end of the bargain. She returns Wonder Woman, who is transformed back just in the nick of time, as she was literally on the conveyor belt heading towards the saw blades that chop up pigs in the slaughterhouse, and she's freed just the nick of time, And we get a kind of a nice little epilogue there as they're up in the watchtower, and Wonder Woman is sort of implying that she doesn't really remember anything that happened. And Batman's kind of trying to play it off. Everything was fine. Nothing weird happened or anything. And then, of course, Wonder Woman begins to hum the MI Blue song. And again, and the actual end of the episode is kind of a really fun musical cue that we'll get to. But so I'll just say overall, and there was on the DVDs, and I'm assuming it's still there on the Blu-rays, there's commentary on this episode. And Paul Dini and Bruce Timm and some of the other creators noted that this was very much meant to be in the vein of a Bewitched or I Dream of Jeannie or one of those sort of wacky 60s sitcoms. And it was meant to be a completely comedic episode. It wasn't, and that was something they just always wanted to try. I know, I think Bruce Timm also said he was sort of inspired by Buffy the Vampire Slayer and their sort of ability to break from the form on occasion. And so they just decided, hey, let's do this wacky, fun sort of homage to classic sitcoms of yesteryear within the context of this superhero lens. And I think they do. I think the execution of what they were trying to do is good. I just don't really enjoy what they were trying to do.
How can you say that? Like, how can you not enjoy this? How can you like Mixius Pixelated as an episode where it's goofy and zany and wacky, but not enjoy this episode? It's the same exact humor.
I don't feel like it is, because in that episode, it's more like Superman's the Roadrunner and Mixie is Wile E. Coyote. And this one is, I don't know, it just feels different. Like, there are some funny jokes, and I just, like I said, I don't think they did a bad job considering what they were doing. I also don't have, maybe if I had a stronger affinity for like that era of television, maybe I would see it more as this loving homage, but it just doesn't quite click with me. And I also, just general, whether it's a comedy or not, I don't like episodes where our heroes have to be dumb for the plot to work. And I think a lot of that is like I said, Batman just has to ignore the Wonder Pig so that Wonder Pig can escape. And then even though he said he wanted to keep it a secret and didn't want to bring in any other Leaguers, he brings in a bunch of other Leaguers to help them find him. Like I said, and I think it's sweet, but I think the rewatch, and knowing that I had seen this episode several times, I knew pretty much all of the jokes. So I think the enjoyment in a rewatch would come if you're someone that's really into the Wonder Woman and Batman pairing. Like, I understand why this is like a seminal episode for you, because it's very sweet. And again, he shows significantly more affection to her than he ever has in any other episode. So I understand why people like it. I do. And I don't want to take it away from anybody that likes it. I just, like I said, I don't know. There's something in here that doesn't work for me, like at its core.
I mean, break the disagreement alarm. That's fine. You can have that. That is your opinion. And I will state this. Everything that's said here is opinions. Your opinion is wrong, but it is your opinion. That's a joke, of course. You're entitled to your opinion. I respect that. I respect that it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody, especially tonally. You know what this reminded me of? As soon as I started watching it, I said, the people that don't like this, or the people that, I wonder if the people that have watched this episode are the same people that don't like Batman and Harley Quinn, because tonally it is very similar in that nothing is taken seriously. There's musical numbers. It's goofy. Granted, Batman doesn't act a whole lot like Batman. The over seriousness, over brooding. There's a brooding joke that Wonder Woman makes about him within the first 2 minutes of the episode. So there is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek mocking that takes place of Batman in this episode. However, I think you're right. I think, to me, if anything, this adds extra depth and layer to humanizing the Bruce Wayne Batman character that they did not do in a very many episodes. The episodes that feature that sort of human-esque side of him, where he gets to care and show compassion and show love and show, and show that he actually cares beyond his oath to defend and seek justice on behalf of his dead parents. Like, I like that. I greatly enjoy that. And I think that this episode, beyond whether or not you're a Wonder Bat stan or not, like whether or not you're a shipper for Wonder Bat, like this episode creates more character for Batman to show that he does care. Yes, you're right. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially when he changes his mind 2 minutes later to include more people to keep this a secret. However, it does show that he cares. He cares for her, even if his care is misplaced. He doesn't want her to be embarrassed. He doesn't want there to be an embarrassment for her in this, or shame or whatever, so he cares in that way. He cares in going out of his way to make sure that when he brings in Beast, Zatanna's like, who the heck are you bringing in? Why are you bringing in this guy? It's like, oh, because he talks to animals. He's a hunter. He can find animals easier. So he uses that giant brain, but also uses his loving heart in this episode in a way that we don't get to see a lot of in Bruce Wayne and Batman. And I feel like because of that, because it lines up with some of those other episodes where you see Batman's compassion and his heart. That's why I love this. Beyond the comedy and the goofy, zany Paul Dini writing, there is some depth and some heart. The fact that Batman goes up on stage and makes a fool of himself in his full Batman costume, singing this song in front of a bunch of strangers so that Wonder Woman's life can be spared. Although he didn't really know that her life was in danger, but that her life would be spared, that she could be returned to her human form. Another sign of Batman's compassion, his heart, his willingness to sacrifice. Like, not only is he willing to sacrifice himself, his life, we've seen him like nosedive the javelin 55 times in this series, like to sacrifice himself. But here it's a little bit more of his pride. It's a little bit more of something that's less tangible and less maybe heroic on the surface. So for those reasons, I absolutely love this episode. I know we're going to disagree greatly on this. I think that it's so much fun. I think it's something that you can put on for 22 minutes. And as long as you're going into it, I don't know, maybe that's the issue. If you're showing this to somebody that's never watched it before, tonally compared to the rest of the DCAU, it's very different. It's very zany. It's meant to be comedic, like you said. It's like that. It's like a special episode of, I don't know, what was that show that was on for 20 years on the CW with the two brothers that they want? What show? Supernatural, right? It's like that. They towards the end of that show, they were just like throwing random weird things out there. Or it's like an episode of Legends of Tomorrow, where it's like, all right, what are we going to do this week? Oh, we're going to have a musical episode. Okay. They did that on the Flash and Supergirl too. It's like, okay, we're just going to have fun this week and do something a little bit different. Okay. So it doesn't line up completely tonally. And I do understand if people don't like it for that reason. However, I think it's 22 minutes. It's not even like a full length feature like Batman and Harley Quinn is. And because of that, I enjoy it. I enjoy it for what it is. I like it. I like that it's a little bit different. And I think it does add a little bit to the characters that are involved.
No, I appreciate that. And I just want to make note of I don't relish disagreeing with the majority. I'm not looking to ruin anybody's fun who does love this episode. And I don't hate this episode. Like maybe I even thought I was going to dislike it. It's just, it's not one that's going to, I don't want to spoil our rewatchability at the end, but it was not one of my favorites when I was younger and watched it now. Like I said, I can appreciate, I think their execution of what they were doing was good. It's just not really a story I enjoy. And I think it would have maybe been more interesting for me, because this is like maybe the most in-depth exploration of the Wonder Woman and Batman relationship that we get in the series, to like actually give Wonder Woman a little bit of like agency in this episode. Like she's in the beginning, like you said, she kind of, cuts through all of his excuses of why he doesn't want to, give it a fair shot. But then she's a pig for the rest of it. And then she hums a song at the end. Like she doesn't get much to do. And we don't really get this explored much deeper than this. So if this was like the first chapter of like a deeper exploration and there was 2 more episodes that really focused on this, I would see this as something maybe a little bit more favorable, just because it was the building blocks of something. But as it stands, it's just kind of this one-off, and like it doesn't work as well for me. And for those reasons, I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10.
A 4 out of 10? Get the heck out of here. Come on, man. All right. Yep. This is, I think, by far the biggest disparity so far, maybe in the history of the DCAU. We told you, folks, we're going to be breaking records and breaking new ground here. We rarely disagree on this show. We're going to make it count on this episode. I gave plot because of how just great it is. The comedy is just, it's a Paul Dini episode. If you love Paul Dini and you love his writing, listen, if every episode was a Paul Dini comedy episode, I couldn't take it. I couldn't deal with it. But I love that there are these here and there little interjections of his humor in various different episodes. This one doesn't even involve the Joker. Like, I know that I saw, I think on that commentary on the DVDs and Blu-rays, they mentioned that there was a cut scene that involved Batman stopping a Joker break-in or something like that, and Joker noticing that he was carrying a pig and just giving up at that point, which I thought was hilarious, and again would have fit very well with that Paul Dini humor. But he didn't even need it in this, and you have the 2 musical elements, and it's tonally very different, very odd. I think if you had other characters that weren't Batman and Wonder Woman in this episode, or Wonder Pig, I think that it would stand to maybe suffer a little bit. But because as we'll talk about maybe in our voice cast, the performances that are given and coupled with the actual plot itself. I also love the introduction of some of these ancillary characters. Bwana Beast never featured again in another episode. I love the fact that they decided also on that track, they mentioned they wanted him to be vocally sound like Sylvester Stallone for some reason. Mm-hmm. And he's just the goofiest character that they picked to involve in this. What a random character to use. But like the perfect interjection for this random D-list, maybe F-list DC Comics character. For all of those reasons, and because this episode continues to be one of my favorite Justice League Unlimited episodes, reinforced by this watching, I gave plot a perfect 10 out of 10.
Wow. Yeah, like I'll just say one more thing, which is that I am not anti-comedy. All right, because like if you can look back at our reviews of the Booster Gold episode of Justice League Unlimited, of Mixie Spixulated, of I think I even liked kid stuff a fair amount. So like it's not that I don't like comedy or I think these characters need to be serious all the time forever. It's just this one, they took some swings, and like I said, I understand why people like it. I don't think you're wrong for liking it. It just didn't work for me for whatever reason.
All right. Well, I guess we should move on to our plot move on from our plot scores here and figure out if we're gonna disagree with our next part here.
That's right. So we are moving on here to visuals and animation. This episode, once again, directed by Dan Reba, and animation by Dong Yang. So this is interesting because we get a little bit of some magic, a fair amount of magical powers, mostly Circe transforming different things into animals, a crowbar, batarangs, Wonder Woman herself, of course, turning into the pig. transforms a bunch of the men in tuxedos at the club at the end of the episode into different vicious animals to attack Batman and Zatanna. But other than that, what stood out to you in visuals this week, Cal?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's visually a very fun episode. Now, I will say I did notice. I think I saw James Tucker and Bruce Timm credited with storyboards for this episode. There were a few others that were listed there as well. But I was going to just remark that this style of Justice League Unlimited animation, I think we talked about it back in the Cat and Canary. There's like some episodes where the characters are very angular, and there's a little that leads to a little bit of inconsistency in various scenes. I would say that I thought right off the bat that the character models, both for Zatanna, who has been updated from her BTAS look, she's got curlier hair as opposed to the sort of one layer, like whatever that is that they did on Batman the Animated Series, updated for the new style, but also given more of a like flowy, wavy look to it. She's been thinned out a little bit also. Her face is thinned out a little bit. Circe also has that similar, they looked like Bruce Timm drawings, or Bruce Timm pinups. So if you're familiar, obviously this is all done in Bruce Timm style animation, but his static drawings, there's something that you can pretty much identify right away from their style, and these looked like storyboards to me that stood out as Bruce Timm storyboards. So I thought the character models were a little bit inconsistent in various different scenes. I did love that opening scene, as you mentioned, with the doves and the hand coming out of the wall to capture Wonder Woman. Batman, the cut scene that cuts to the opening titles ends with Batman with a very bug-eyed sort of look of surprise when Wonder Woman is transformed off screen. You don't even see the transformation. It's sort of left hanging until after the opening credits. But so those I thought were pretty fun. I will say that Buana Beast popping up is a fun visual. Also, he looks somewhat true to his DC Comics counterpart. We also, as you mentioned, we get the Crimson Avenger. We get the Red Tornado also makes an appearance. Elongated Man. So we get some visuals there. As far as like action, there's not a whole lot of action that occurs other than I guess the scene that involves the pig chase, the Wonder Pig chase through the pigsty, and as you mentioned, the Wonder Pig bullets and bracelets moment. Other than that, though, it's not a real heavy visual action episode. The only other thing I'll mention is, of course, the River Styx and Medusa as a character design. I thought was done really well. Especially she's shrouded until she comes up to the shore and takes her hood off, and the snakes sort of unfurl from underneath of the hood. And Grim Reaper, real creepy dude. A+ on the creepiness there. What about you? What did you have as far as visuals go?
Yeah, definitely. I think the character designs are what stood out to me. Medusa, as you mentioned, she's playing this very like hardened prisoner, and but then when she's talking, she's very sort of gossipy and is talking about how Circe wouldn't shut up about Hippolyta and all the revenge she was going to take, and just the whole time her I thought her hair snakes were animated pretty well. They're kind of constantly moving, that a lot of the I thought a lot of the backgrounds and stuff that they used were pretty cool. As we mentioned, we get to see the Iceberg Lounge, we get to see this really elaborate sort of Greek nightclub that Circe's holed up in. And I think from an animation standpoint, probably the best looking stuff is when the guys are all turned into tigers and lions and such,
and bears. Oh my,
yes. And we get a Black Panther, not that one. Yeah, I thought the animation on the animals was pretty darn great. I thought that was maybe the best looking animation itself in the episode. The hand, I couldn't tell if the hand coming out of the wall was a little bit of digital or CGI animation with like some cell shading over top of it, but either way, I thought that looked good. So yeah, I think there's some cool stuff, but not a lot of spectacular visuals because obviously this is 100% a plot driven episode, and because it's so heavy on the comedy. And again, for this, because that's not the visuals' fault. It just means there isn't maybe as much to do other than some kind of visual gags and to sort of reinforce the plot. So for all those reasons, I settled on a 7 out of 10 for visuals.
Yeah, I went just a tick higher. I went 8 out of 10. I do think that the visuals, I thought the character designs themselves deserved that high of a score. Obviously, I think some more action in the episode, especially if there was some more mystical battles. There's no final battle of magic and wit and Batman or even Zatanna battling against Circe with magic because it's all solved with Batman singing a song. So you don't really have the opportunity for that to be showcased or fun to be had with that. But I thought that the opening scene was pretty strong visually as well. I think that left a strong impression. And I do think that the character designs themselves, like I said, warranted a little bit of a higher score, but nothing out there that I felt like was super spectacular. I think with maybe a more spectacular scene other than, like you said, the animals themselves that Circe transforms these guys into. If there had been maybe more of them or more of a longer scene featuring them, that may have been a little bit would have taken my score just a tad higher. But that's still a very high score with 8 out of 10.
Very good. And that will move us into our music category. And as mentioned, we have all 3 of our dynamic music partners on the stage this week. And not only do we get the 2 proper musical numbers, which I guess that's a little bit of crossover with our voice actors, as the actors themselves do actually perform the songs. But in addition to that, other than the musical numbers, did anything stand out to you from a musical sense?
Yeah, there was a couple I think that really stood out. I thought that the music that played during the Wonder Pig versus the Slaughterers scene, that certainly turned up the intensity of that scene and built sort of an atmosphere of sort of panic and, oh no, is Wonder Woman going to die at the hands of this Amazonian goddess going to die at the hands of these pig slaughterers?
Good night, pork chop.
Which is a funny thing to say, but yes, I thought that worked well. I also took note of the theme that begins to play First, when Buona Beast is introduced, he has his own theme that plays. It is very there's like a jungle-esque theme to it with some bonga drums being played in the background as he sort of runs through Gotham City. And
yo, Wonder Pig. Bats, Beast, got a fix on your girl. Good work. I'll have her ready for pickup in.
There's like a piccolo or something that's played over top of it, or maybe a flute or something of that nature played over top of it. But I thought it was a good mix, and a character again that gets introduced and used this one time basically, and gets a theme song out of it. I think that always gets a thumbs up for me and appreciation. And then that theme sort of melds into a different theme that I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be the Red Tornado theme or the Crimson Adventure theme, but it sort of melds into a different, more triumphant theme that plays as they're searching through Gotham, looking for the Wonder Pig, which leads to another hilarious scene that we didn't even mention, where Crimson Avenger comes to some guy's door and he holds up a sign, says he's looking for a pig, and the gentleman that answers the door calls to his wife saying that they were looking for her, which gets a good rim shot. I thought that was another amusing point there. But the music in the background there was not necessarily needed. They could have just played generic music, because it's, they could have played heroic searching music, track number 8 or whatever. But the fact that they went out of their way to sort of build the atmosphere and kind of build a little bit of the character of Buona Beast by giving him his own theme, I thought that was very much appreciated. But the standouts, and it's hard because it's also reliant on our voice actors' voice performances, but the two musical numbers I think are just fantastic. Like, say what you want, maybe they're a little bit out of place in a DCAU cartoon, certainly not something you're used to, but very well done between Lulu's Back in Town and Are You Blue?
Yeah, no, I think that those are definitely standout moments. I will mention, I enjoyed the percussion in the Buona Beast jungle theme. It felt like it could have been out of like a Predator movie or something. Like it's very over the top, and but it fits because it's a very over the top character. So yeah, when that music plays as he's like perched on the side of a lamppost with his hand over his forehead as he's searching far and wide for the Wonder Pig. There's some very fun music, and I would be remiss not to mention that when Wonder Pig blocks the bullet with her bracelets, they did in fact bring in the Wonder Woman theme, all rocked up on electric guitar for a moment there, which I thought was a good bit of musical humor there as you played like the traditional heroic rocked up superhero music as a pig is standing there facing off with an overweight slaughterhouse attendant. So I thought that was pretty cool. But yes, the musical numbers themselves are quite a bit of fun. There's like I think we mentioned this in plot, but yeah, there's like this little sidebar to the story where Circe had this rivalry with the sirens, who I guess they say are her cousins, and she was determined to show them up by proving that she could also sing and I guess captivate men's attention as well with her musical abilities. But Rachel York, who again we'll get to a little bit in voice acting here, but yeah, Rachel York and Kevin Conroy singing those songs. Rachel York and Kevin Conroy both with extensive theater background. And they do a great job, and the accompanying music by the Dynamic Music Partners makes for a couple of great covers of these like old classic. One being this sort of classic show tune, and the other one being this very sort of mellow blues, literally a sort of blues song. No pun intended with the title of it, but yeah, I think the music is by far it's my favorite part of the episode. And I actually gave it a 9 out of 10.
Nice. I felt, for multiple reasons, and I guess the argument could be made whether or not it's for the voice performances or if it's for the music itself. But I think even if you say that the musical performances from the two actors are the score deserves to give to them, I still think the fact that there was music that was added for these, D and C list characters that are never even used again, themes written for them to give them their own sort of spice of life, if you will. I think I thought that was outstanding. So that coupled with those performances and musical numbers, I ended up giving music a perfect 10 out of 10.
Very nice. Our second perfect score of the episode already. And that will lead us in there. As we said, we're already kind of bleeding into voice actor with the end of our musical talk, but that's kind of how it goes when you have a couple of musical numbers. But going into our voice cast here, as mentioned, we have Rachel York, who's did a lot of work on Broadway, as mentioned, and playing Circe. And again, it's a very over the top character.
Gotta get your old tuxedo pressed. Gotta sew a button on your vest. 'Cause tonight you've got to look your best. Lulu's back in town. Gotta get a $50 somewhere. Gotta shine your shoes and slick your hair. Gotta get this guy a boutonniere. Lulu's back in town. You can tell the mailman not to call. You ain't coming home until the fall. And you may not get back home at all. Lulu's back in town.
She gets to sing. She gets to be a little bit cheeky, and then pretty funny, I think, when she's sort of trying to do this dramatic, like, how dare you mortals, show your faces to me, and she keeps getting hit by stuff that Zatanna's throwing at her. I think that's a pretty good bit, and I think she pulls off the comedy very well.
Yes, I think that how dare you slapstick spot is great. It was very Looney Tunes. It was very Yosemite Sam, getting foiled, trying to get a word out, and just keeps getting cut off by being hit in the head by various objects.
Oh, thank you. I love you all. Are there any requests?
Sedgebuck guitar a Circe.
I'm not sure I know that one. Insolent trickster, you dare to strike. Oh, you dare to strike. Ow! You dare to strike. Ow! Quit! Oh, no. Well, defend your mistress.
It worked. It always gets a chuckle out of me, and I felt like her performance outside of even her vocal performance, I thought was very, very strong. She came across as a sort of sultry yet fierce, I guess, opposing foil for Batman in this episode, or Batman and Zatanna in this episode, even though their interactions were not long. She has more interactions almost with the people at the Greek nightclub than she does with Batman and Zatanna. But still, I think her performance is strong. I think she's great. I think it was a great casting, and it was a case where somebody who sometimes, we've talked about how great actors in other forms don't always translate into voice acting. That it's a little bit different. We've talked about great actors that have been listed in the credits and just kind of scratched our heads at why their performance maybe wasn't up to snuff or what we would expect from them. This obviously, her having stage credits was not a detriment, and certainly translated very well over to me, in my opinion, for her voice acting.
Agreed. And rounding out the rest of the cast, we had Lorraine Newman, who was on some of the very early seasons of Saturday Night Live, and has done a lot of other voice work over the years as Medusa. And she has, and again, it's a very wacky scene, but she just has this very like raspy sort of like old starlet voice to her, which I think again it works for what they were going for.
Yeah, she's great. It's a straight up comedy scene. She's very raspy, as you said, very, very like it's. I mean, if you were going to visit a prison and you were speaking to a stool pigeon from the prison that's going to squeal on their cellmate, yeah, that would make sense that this is the voice that you would hear. So, for what it was required, I thought she did great.
Absolutely, and we briefly we mentioned, I think, that near the beginning of the episode, they go to see this guy who like works in like a magical pawn shop or something.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy by the name of Sid, and playing him was Jack Carter, who was just sort of this, he was like if you look up his IMDb, it's like every one of those 60 shows that we talked about. I think Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie. He was on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was on actually was on the Batman 66 show, I think, playing one of those made up villains in the final season as well.
Okay.
So yeah, he's just like a classic, 60s and 70s sitcom guest star. But kind of makes sense that they would have someone like that in this episode, considering kind of what an overt homage it is to that era of television. But rounding out the guest cast, we have Peter Onorati as Buona Beast, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But I do want to make a note here that the portraying Buona Beast's growl that he gives to Zatanna when he's hitting on her is Mr. James Tucker.
Well, that's it. From Mudhole to Sty, we've looked everywhere.
Obviously we haven't, because we haven't found her yet.
Don't get snippy with me. How many other girls would go this far out of their way for a cold, insensitive...
Yo, Bats. Relax. He's one of us. Buona Beast. How you doing?
My legs are fine, as is the rest of me. Up here...
Whoa, she's got the fire of the cheetah in her.
Why are you doing this to me?
Apart from being an expert tracker, he can communicate with animals. I called him in to help search. We're looking for a lost pig. Pink, about 60 pounds, wearing 2 silver bracelets. It used to be Wonder Woman. Right on. I'll yank in some of the other guys. Let's keep the circle small. Very small.
Fantastic. Love it. Just what a neat little factoid there, that one of the obviously one of the legendary writers, producers, directors, storyboard artists, and such a man that has made such an impact on not only the DCAU but subsequent DC animated projects, gets to have his voice credit in this episode.
Yeah, it's I believe it's also mentioned on that commentary track, but for whatever reason they couldn't quite, I guess, communicate to Mr. Onorati what exactly they wanted that noise to sound like when Buona Beast kind of reacts to Zatanna. So James Tucker was like, no, just do it like this, and then James Tucker did it so well that they just used his his take. So I always thought that's like a funny bit of trivia that I remember that I'll just never forget.
Tremendous.
But yeah, I like that. And as you mentioned, he's Mr. Onorati's pretty much just doing a Sly Stallone impression, and gets some goofy lines in there, like you said, kind of being like this pig towards Zatanna, but then no pun intended. And then later in the episode, when he's trying to communicate with the other pigs to find Wonder Woman, and he's like talking about how she's stuck up and whatever to try to, which I thought was kind of funny. So yeah, I think he does a pretty good job. But yes, our main players, we get a little bit, although again, I think to the story's detriment, maybe not enough, of Susan Eisenberg as Wonder Woman.
And truthfully, it's all still pretty much of a blur to me. Did I miss anything?
Not really. The important thing is you're safe.
Yeah, of course. That's not the only important thing.
And then we have Kevin Conroy, who probably for the musical performance alone, like we said, this episode will be remembered for that. But yeah, the rest of the episode, he gets to show, as you said, Cal, he motion both his concern and his sort of fear of letting the league in on this issue, and sort of coming to the conclusion that he was going to have to do something outlandish to get Circe to release her spell, and all culminating in the performance of M.I. Blue at the end of the episode there, which, by the way, I believe Kevin Conroy has done a full performance of that. That's up on his website, or it was. So you could probably find it on YouTube as well if you'd like to hear a full rendition of that beautiful song by the legend that is Kevin Conroy.
Yeah. I mean, what else could we say about Kevin Conroy, in that he just continued to outdo himself as these series progressed? The fact that, they were able to kind of write into this story the option for them to kind of reveal this beautiful, like, amazing voice, that not only do we love Kevin Conroy's Batman voice, but he actually has a really good singing voice. So the fact that they were able to write a reason for him to sing, which I think if I remember correctly, in the commentary, they talk about like really enjoying the fact that they were able to write a reason for Kevin Conroy to sing in an episode. And so it's just great. Like, yes, we don't get a lot of Susan Eisenberg's Wonder Woman, but I think Batman carrying the episode, this feels like an extension of a Batman the Animated Series or New Batman Adventures episode, because there's so much Batman in it. So having Kevin Conroy's performance, as you mentioned, concern, there's a couple of great lines where right when they're starting the incantation at the guy's shop, Zatanna tries to explain to Batman why she has to say the incantation backwards, and his response is just whatever.
I call upon the spirits of earth and air to reveal our enemy and make her whereabouts known. This invocation works better frontwards than backwards.
Whatever.
He's just so tired at that point. He just wants to get Wonder Woman back into human form. He doesn't care about the details or hearing Zatanna's exposition as to why she has to say the spells and incantations backwards. But I thought there's a little bit of humor that was, of course, revealed in that, but subtlety in that he's not even really in on the joke. He's just tired of it. He just wants Wonder Woman back in human form. But yeah, we can go on all day about how great Kevin Conroy is and has been in every performance that he's done as Batman. But this to me is another standout, just because we get to see another side of him and do it as Batman. So he sings as Batman. So another amazing, different take on the Batman voice.
Yeah, a lot of I somehow forgot to write down her name when I was writing down there, but him playing off Jennifer Hale as Zatanna. I wish there was maybe a little bit more of like familiarity in there. There's a little bit of them mentioning that they're old friends, and Zatanna has a line about like, who else would be out here all night, searching over the city besides her, right before Buona Beast enters the fray. But I wish there was maybe a little more interplay between them on like a personal level. A lot of it is, and again, it's 22 minutes. I certainly don't think this needed to be a two-parter, so I don't think you needed to stretch it out. But Jennifer Hale, I don't think she does a bad job as Zatanna, but she's one of those voice actors. It's a little bit like when I hear Nolan North in a video game. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's that. I know that voice. Like, it's very like she has a very distinct voice, and she voices a lot of characters. Even within this DCAU, she voices Giganta, she voices Killer Frost, and I think one or two others as well throughout these various series. So it's just a very recognizable voice. Again, I don't think she does a bad job, but me, I don't know. Maybe I wish they could have gone with a more unique vocal performance for Zatanna. But that being said, I still think it's a very strong episode, especially from a vocal standpoint, especially from Kevin Conroy. And for all those reasons, I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah, I think combining the vocal performances in both songs, Kevin Conroy's wide range showcased in this episode. I really think that the casting for Buona Beast was tremendous. I didn't have as much an issue with Zatanna's voice. I do see what you're saying. Having somebody that goes on to play multiple different characters, Giganta as well. Like, you know, it's just not overused, but she does play very important pivotal voices later on in the episodes or in subsequent episodes. So I think in some way it probably would have behooved them to maybe cast somebody else, but that's not to say her performance in this episode is perfectly fine. I think it's great. She plays off of Kevin Conroy pretty well. There's some cheeky moments where she sort of gives Batman a little bit of the business, as after he alludes to Wonder Woman is just a friend, and she reminds him that they are just really close friends, that there clearly is something different here between Zatanna, or between Batman and Wonder Woman. So for all those reasons, I think the vocal performances in the songs lend to it. I felt I had no choice but to give this a perfect 10 out of 10.
Wow. All right. Well, that will begin to get us to our final scores here, Cal. I think we're going to have a little bit of a disparity thanks to our difference of opinion on the plot category, mostly. But I rounded up at a final score of 28 out of 40. And I think that reflects my opinion on the episode pretty well, in that I think the other three categories are pretty strong. The execution of the idea is well done. It's more just the idea I had the problem with. So I think that's reflected in my final score here. But what about you?
Definitely reflected in your score, yes. And I think one last time we'll break out the disagreement alarm, because my final score for this episode, putting it into our top pick section, is 38 out of 40. A very strong score for this one. Liam, which I guess will lead us to rewatchability. Do I need to break out the disagreement alarm yet again for this one?
Like, I don't think there's a lot here that like you need to see.
No, you're right. You're right.
Like, there's nothing, like I said, and again, maybe there would be some novelty if you are watching through this series for the first time. I think it's worth a watch on your first go through, but when we talk about rewatchability, like I said, if this was like a building block to like a deeper exploration of the Batman Wonder Woman relationship, then maybe I would say this is definitely a must watch. But as it is, you know, it's very comedy heavy, and Batman sings, which, hey, that's enough of a reason for a lot of people, I think. And again, if you are a hardcore shipper of Wonder Bat, there are a few episodes that give you more of what you want, I think, than this one. So again, I get why a lot of people would probably want to rewatch this one over and over, but I think I would say this is pretty skippable.
I would say it's the old one thumb up for me as far as rewatchability. And the reason is it's not pivotal. There's nothing that's continued on later on other than the whole Wonder Bat. And it really doesn't advance that too much. But it does lend to those shippers, as you mentioned. However, it is fun. I stand by my declaration. This is a very fun episode. It's lighthearted. I think this is an episode that you can put on for your child and watch with them. You'll get a chuckle out of it. They'll get some chuckles out of it. They'll enjoy it because it involves Batman chasing a pig around or Wonder Woman being turned into a pig. You'll enjoy it for some of the more adult homages or goofy slapstick or what have you. But it's not pivotal to anything else that happens in the rest of the series. Tonally, it's very different. If you're watching all of the Paul Dini episodes, the Diniest of the Dini episodes, yeah, this is a must watch. But as far as like, is this a must watch? Is this required viewing? No, it's not. It's fun, but it's no more required than kids stuff or, some of those other one-offs that really don't affect the story moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And that will begin to wrap us up this week. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening, whether you do it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, DCAUreview.com, Spotify, or, of course, the mighty Pod Tower YouTube channel, where you can not only listen to our reviews on YouTube, but also our friends over at Tim Talk, as well as the archived live streams from our friends at Watchtower Database. Go ahead and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Even if you don't like to listen to podcasts on YouTube, we'd appreciate the subscribers there. But as we begin to wrap it up here, Cal, we are looking forward to next week. We are continuing on in Magic May, the month of magic, with another trip. But this time we're going backwards a little bit. We're going back into a regular old Justice League episode.
That's right. I think this is the episode we actually had somebody ask us recently about involving a couple of characters who their storylines kind of veered off and went in different directions later on in Justice League Unlimited. But here we have some interesting groundwork being laid that would eventually be followed up in Justice League Unlimited.
That's right. We will be reviewing The Terror Beyond Parts 1 and 2, featuring Hawkgirl, featuring Superman, featuring Aquaman, and, of course, the returning Dr. Fate. So lots of magic on display, not to mention a pretty outlandish, over-the-top villain from the mystical realms as well. So lots more mystical and magical villains and heroes to talk about in the coming weeks, starting next week with The Terror Beyond Parts 1 and 2. But until then, I'm Liam.
And I'm Cal.
And we'll be back next week with another episode of the DCAU Review.
Bye-bye.